Hello, hello. Let me remove this as I do my audio check. See if you guys can hear me pretty good. All right. And that's gone. Audio's good. Excellent. I'm not even talking loud. I'm talking very quietly right now. This microphone is awesome. All right. Thank you, moderators, for being so diligent. It's an unfortunate necessity, but a lot of people have been removed from Archaix. You guys already know, zero tolerance on the toxicity. You're not going to bring that negativity into my house. There's plenty of other YouTube channels that entertain that, and there's plenty of other YouTube channels where the host never even engages in the comment section. So you can go to those channels if you want to spread that type of stuff. But here, we're all about the business. We're all about what can be verified, what cannot be verified. We are all about separating fact from fiction. In my last video, I only covered the year 1800 to 1865. And there's really no way to go into every single page of all the sets of encyclopedias I have to show. There's no way to really just make people understand that, they think that buildings can't be built because we only had horse and buggies or whatever, man. I mean, the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty was built in France first for a World's Fair. And then it was turned around and disassembled, put on ships, sent to the United States for the 100th birthday, where it was reassembled in the United States. And it was all done before tractors. All they had were hoists, cranes, manpower. Yeah. Cordage, ropes. People believe anything these days. Yeah, there are genuine mysteries in the ancient past, and for this is what Archaix is all about. Finding those mysteries. But there's a lot of bullshit in the field now. And any bullshit that's out there in the field that contradicts the actual data sets that I've published here in Archaix, I will attack. There's no backup in me. I don't care about people's feelings. I'm going to show you what the facts are. And if you show up into my comment sections with all that toxicity, especially about 50 people who got blocked in the last 3 days because you're making toxic comments and you've never watched a single Phoenix phenomenon video. Not a single one. It's very evident by the comments that you make. I'm not dealing with any of that. My channel is still growing exponentially every single day, despite the mounting multitudes of people being blocked from this channel. It's amazing. It's too late to be polite, guys. You got 15.5 years before the next systemic reset. I mean, unlucky for people in Asia. They're about to bear the brunt of this. We're going to go through the Phoenix phenomenon real quick. I'm going to give you an abbreviated deal. This video is to bring to your attention that a lifetime's worth of research that I'm going to review for you real concisely here. Published books, hundreds of articles, hundreds of videos. And yet, I thought I had brought something new to the table. I thought that I had brought something from the ancient world and brought it back to human memory with all these amazing data sets showing the Phoenix history. But somebody beat me to it 270 years ago. His book was published 244 years ago. That's what this video is ultimately about. And we're going to show the pages in his book and what he said. My Archaix veterans, you're going to have your mind blown. I understand that there's been a few people who have anticipated me and went ahead and went into my chat section and revealed whole sections of the book. And I really don't appreciate that, but that's okay. I didn't tell you couldn't do it, but I kind of wonder why you did it. But you didn't see. It's obvious by your comments, you didn't see what I saw. And I'm going to show it to you. It's amazing. So, I have so many announcements, but I really don't want to really waste them on this video. Those of you who are participating in the Archaix ads, you're going to love it. You're going to love it because I come up with a whole new idea to give you even more exposure. We have everybody's ads being cataloged. A lot of you have made payment, but you haven't submitted a 30-second ad or a 30-second little script that you want me to say for you as I show a picture of whatever it is you're trying to advertise. So, excuse me, the intro you just saw at the beginning of this video is going to be the same intro, but it's going to have a pause where the music fades out and your ad appears in a box, and everybody gets to hear your 30 seconds of fame, whatever it is you're trying to bring to the table. Some people are doing philosophical statements. Some people are doing shout outs. Some people are doing their home businesses, their ads, their hobbies, books they wrote. I've seen some really interesting things. It's very compelling. So 2 of your ads will appear in each live video introduction. At the end of each live video, 2 other ads will appear from the previous live video. So I'm giving you twice the coverage that I actually promised. I had just had this idea the other night, but your ad is going to appear at the beginning of a live video, and the very next live video, your same ad is going to appear at the end of that video. So you're getting double coverage. But Archaix Coffee, I still need to put the store online. I just got a whole list of things I need to do. I just haven't done it. Haven't got to it yet. I've been too busy doing the OFIS predictions. We've made another breakthrough. We thought we were going to need 6 months for beta testing. We're not going to need that, but we're still going to fulfill our promises to everybody who wants those predictions done. Some people have taken advantage of it and given us a whole list of predictions to do. Others we haven't got to. Somebody even submitted some golf. We haven't done any predictions on golf ever, so I'm pretty interested in doing that one. But it is cold as hell in Texas. It's hot in here, but it's cold. Matter of fact, I got this little heater because it's such a small studio. This little heater, I don't know if you can see, I got the sword in the way. This little heater right here. Oh my God, this little heater right here is amazing. You know what? There it is. Yeah, this little heater here, man, it'll suck the spit out of your mouth. Dry everything out in here. It's in the 30s outside, but it's going to get colder tonight. Not used to this in Texas. It's been nice. It's been in the 70s and low 80s. But anyway, we need to get on to it. We need to do it. Let me see how I can set this up. I don't know why it makes me so small. Why doesn't it just go side by side? I don't get it. I'm looking at all the different settings here. I just don't understand why when I don't get it. Let me remove me real quick. That doesn't work either. So if I add this to stage like this, StreamYard sometimes makes me angry. I don't know why it's doing that. Why it makes me so small when I'm running a reel. But I don't have time to mess with that. We got a lot of important stuff to go through. I know you guys can see that. Hundreds of articles, hundreds of videos showing all different aspects of the Phoenix history. Let's see. So in the course of this research, my Archaix veterans already know my backstory. You already know that I was in prison and I did a whole bunch of reading on a lot of books that most people didn't even know existed. Old libraries, old books. I had many benefactors I secured a publishing contract. 2004, my first article ever published was on the Phoenix phenomenon. It was in Paranoia magazine. 2006, my first book was published. Phoenix is only mentioned a couple times. It wasn't really integral to the subject matter of lost scriptures of Giza, which is about the Great Pyramid, uh, and the story of Enoch. My first Phoenix book was published in 2009, followed by another one in 2013, followed by another one in 2017. So, core fundamentals of my research is I showed that the ancient world that we're always reading about in legends and myths and traditions and ancient texts, or translations of ancient texts, is that they knew of a year that was 360 days, and that because of a cataclysm, the year became 365.24 days. This is a part of the Phoenix data. It's very important to understanding the Phoenix phenomenon. So, also integral to this research is that in ancient times, it was widely known that a year was also a day, and a day was what was a year. This is in eschatology and in prophetic literature. They were interchangeable. So these are things that came out of the Phoenix research. It's important to remember for this presentation. Something else that emerged from this research is as I showed in my published books, I understand that the legend of the Phoenix today is understood to be a celestial bird that immerses into the sun and it catches on fire, and out of the ashes of the burnt phoenix, the next epic begins. It became later a religious symbol of renovation, of resurrection, of renewal, purging the spirit. But it did not begin that way. The oldest traditions were cyclical destructions, and that in ancient Egypt, the Bennu bird was attached to the idea of the phoenix. As a matter of fact, in the ancient Egyptian city of Anu, which later became Heliopolis, was the mansion of the phoenix where they held the Benben stone, which was a pyramid covered in hieroglyphics. And in the mansion of the phoenix was housed the garden of the phoenix palms, and they were used for the counting of times. So when I put all these things together in my published books, little did I know what rabbit hole I was going to be going down. Little did I know that I had tapped into something major, that the ancients had preserved a cycle of destruction in their traditions. And only later, after different resets, did post-reset societies ex post facto trying to put things back together, simplified things into mythological frames of reference. But they were actually concealing some very technical, mathematical, and calendrical data. And the Phoenix thesis was born out of this material, that there was a Phoenix cycle of destruction and world resets that the ancients knew very well. So that the Phoenix was an astronomical body was one of the major hallmarks of my research. It wasn't a celestial bird. It was one of the great sky dragons known throughout antiquity. So Phoenix was a dragon. Phoenix was a sky dragon. Phoenix was an astronomical body. So in my course of my research, I also showed that the most ancient traditions of the Garden of Eden, the serpent, the divine tree, the world tree of Adam and Eve, every bit of that told a different story than what we've been led to believe by the Judeo-Christian interpretation of the first two chapters of Genesis. What I found reading old books was a reset of civilization. What I found from old books was that the story of Adam and Eve was not the beginning. It was the end of a pre-existing civilization. Adam and Eve's story is about the fall of man that later religionists reinterpreted to make you guilty of a sin debt that you do not possess. The original story was a cataclysm so terrible that surviving humanity were naked, living as animals on the surface world. The fall of man was the fall of a great civilization. and it began year one of the pre-flood world. So this is where all my research ended up going. And I showed in all these presentations that you're looking at on the screen right now. This is the subject matter of all my original Phoenix videos. These are my first Phoenix videos. This isn't all of them. I'll show you those later in the video. So in the course of all my discoveries and data mining, I realized that it wasn't just the fall of man. This phoenix appeared during the Great Flood. It caused the Great Flood. And I couldn't believe that all these biblical commentators and all these writers from the ancient world didn't even link it there. Some did. But in modern times, you never hear about this. But the great flood of the ancient world was caused by a great red sky dragon that appeared in the sky and darkened the sun. Later on, it was called Typhon, the Phoenix. So, also in the course of my research, I showed where the Phoenix had visited 3 times in the pre-flood world. These epic, huge, cyclical destructions. The fall of man only began the pre-flood world. The great flood of Noah ended the pre-flood world. The difference between the 2 dates in Genesis is 1,656 years. 1,656 years is divisible by 138, the Phoenix periodicity. However, 1,656 years is also the exact amount of years that Rashi, over 900 years ago, wrote was the period of time between 2 world destructions. We'll get to that. So all this is my old research. This is all independent of the book that I'm going to reveal to you today. So also there are ancient records that show, independent of the Phoenix analysis, that the great flood of Noah was caused by the close proximity of an astronomical body. Also showed that because Phoenix was predicted multiple times after the flood, then there must have been a chain of custody of the Phoenix information kept secret by a certain people who didn't give it to anybody else, but they used it to their advantage. And we see that when in 1687 BC in the Ogygian Deluge, the cataclysm is used so that the Israelites could defeat the Canaanites. I've showed this multiple times and cited those sources. It's very interesting. Thales of Miletus was a Phoenician by remote descent. He too possessed the Phoenix material. Before him, the Tuatha Danann of Tekdon. Tekdon being the house of Dawn. Dawn coming out of ancient Egypt, landing in Mycenae, made trade and war alliances with the Mycenaeans for safe passage. Among the Milesian fleets, they made it to Spain. In Spain, they built colonies, and then from there, they launched their ships to ancient Ireland. This is the Tuatha Danann. They too possessed the Phoenix knowledge. And these are things I've shown in these videos. So, now, I've also shown that the Phoenix cycle is 552 years. 552 years is 138 times 4. And there are ancient sources that claim that the Phoenix cycle was 500 years. There are some that say it was 600 years. There are others that say that it was something in between, like 550 years. We have one ancient author that says 550 years. But no one in the ancient world ever wrote that it was 552 years. However, there was a calendar of 552 years that was specifically obfuscated by the Vatican in the year 526 AD, when the Dark Ages began. After the Phoenix appeared in 522 AD, your calendar that you're living under right now Anno Domini calendar, the AD calendar, was specifically created to cover up the 552-year Phoenix timeline. I have a video on that as well. Phoenix destroyed the world and caused the Dark Ages. The whole great 25-year Justinian darkness, the fallout, the volcanoes, the earthquakes, the tsunamis, the plagues, everything that happened during that 25-year period, every bit of that was initiated by the Phoenix. It was a total reset, depopulation of the world. It's called the Justinian darkness period. So I've also showed, which was a late discovery, like within the last 3 years, wasn't even a part of my earlier published books, that Phoenix isn't just returning in the month of May of the year 2040, but 138 years, it will return in the year 2178 for total all-out systemic reset right back to Genesis. The whole program. Remember, Phoenix is the keeper of the calendar. In the Gnostic text, the Phoenix was designed to keep the archons in check. The archons are the ones that rule over and tell the elite what to do. Therefore, the Phoenix is a benefactor protocol, although destroying the world doesn't seem to be something that's good. However, if there wasn't a checks and balances system in place, then the archons would have the elite enslaving the entire human race, and there's nothing you could do about it. You see everything they've gotten away with in the last 30, 40 years. Imagine if there was no checks and balances. The Phoenix is designed to keep the elite in check, and it does it through total systemic resets. And the entire history of the world is proof of that, as I've documented in Archaix. Now, so Phoenix, the whole Phoenix tradition is literally the story of the beginning and the end. The beginning, the Alpha and Omega protocols, the beginning and the end of the world. It began with the Phoenix destruction, which destroyed a previously existing super civilization, and it ends with the destruction of our civilization. We're on a perfect loop. The Phoenix without wings is a serpent. It's Ouroboros. It is the serpent eating its tail, which is a recognition that the head, which is the beginning, always follows the end, which is the tail. Now, we're on a cyclical program. The entire historical record is on a loop. When we suffer total systemic reset in the future, we return back to Genesis. That naked Adam and Eve, that's us back at the beginning. So these are the things that I've published long before I ever came into contact with this book from 1781. These are the things that I've had in published books long before. You guys, I'm a published author of nonfiction works with very extensive bibliographies long before I ever started my YouTube career. I started my YouTube career in 2019, had a terrible motorcycle accident, and didn't kick up the videos till 2020. My channel is about 5 years old. Well, 4.5 years old, and I don't quite have 900 videos yet, and that's because my videos are very, very meticulous. More than 50% of my videos are over 2 hours each. Many of them are 4 and 5 hours, and they are just packed with data. Now, I put my whole entire thesis together just reading old books and data mining them and putting this together. So, where are we at on that reel? And I never stop researching. I'm always finding new material. But for those who want a real quick rundown, the very first appearances of the Phoenix in the written record, the written historical record, are in Akkadian cuneiform tablets that are translations of older Sumerian tablets, though we do not have the Sumerian originals. Those Akkadian tablets have notations because they were being studied when a later culture had come in and were putting together what were known as the Amorite syllabaries. In the Amorite syllabaries, we find references to the Appen. Apen and Pin deity. In the earliest Egyptian hieroglyphic records, we have references to the Pin deity, PN God or PN deity in the ancient times that bathed the world in blood. It is the exact same thing as the Akkadian Apen. They're no different. This is an object like a fiery celestial dragon in the sky that appeared, that destroyed cities and changed the topography of the earth. It was originally called the Apen and Pin deity, and later Phoenix. In the Druidic, it was called Think. In the ancient Egyptian, it was called Naph or Neph. This might be the origin of Nephilim, the children of Typhon, the phoenix, Ophion, people of the serpent. The phoenix appears in many different ways, like the kraken when the ocean is being all kinds. In ancient China, it was Feng. Feng was the great celestial red dragon. It was the phoenix of ancient China. The Feng is the origin of Feng Shui. Feng Shui is the art of changing the landscape to maximize its potential as in both aesthetics and utilitarianism. Feng Shui is the ultimate origin of Feng Shui. The changing of the landscape is from the phoenix, which every time it appears, it alters the landscape. It's like a Dark City scenario from 1998 when different areas suffer subsidence and they sink. Other areas are uplifted, and other areas suffer things like the Deccan traps in India, where hundreds or thousands of square miles are resurfaced with volcanic materials, and everything underneath them is lost forever. Coastlines change, and all the maps and all the cartography has to change to allow for this. We have rapid appearance of 2-mile high ice caps on the Arctic and the Antarctic, and then we have whole centuries where the sun is never seen. Vapor canopies appear, which completely melts all the ice from the Arctic and the Antarctic. During those periods, cartographers go in and they map the whole areas. Is this speculative? Hell no. We have the actual maps from the 15th, 16th, 17th century that show Antarctica is completely ice-free. No, Graham Hancock, I don't even want to say what I really want to say, but Graham Hancock's idea that these are maps that are copies of 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 copies ad nauseum, going all the way back to Civilization X 10,800 BC is absolutely moronic. We don't even have any stone tablets that last that long, much less copies of copies of copies of copies of maps. No, Occam's razor mandates us to put those maps into their proper perspective. If we have maps of an ice-free Antarctica, then an ice-free Antarctica was very recent in history, and this changes everything. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing with all the alt history, alternative history, Tartaria research, because there is a genuine reset in the past. It was not the 1800s. It wasn't even the 1700s. And we're going to have to go back century by century by century until we hit that wall where the Archaix material and data sets, which were irrefutable, actually come into contact with all these other guys' research. In a questionable century that we can all agree something happened for which we cannot explain. This is where this is going. Now, whether all these guys get on board or not, I don't even care. I don't. I'm doing this for my community so they can see what we have in the historical record and what we do not. So the Phoenix appears. How's my reel doing? So we have many historical references to the appearance of the Phoenix in ancient times. The very first appearance of the was really before the historical record. It's in the traditional record. 4309 BC, the Phoenix appears and ends a 930-year-old civilization. The Jews in Babylon in the 5th century misunderstood what they were reading. Adam was not a pronoun. Adam was a description of the race that was surviving on the surface world. This is common to almost every scholar who has studied Semitic antiquities knows. Babylonian word for mankind was Adamu. So Adamu, the Jews saw that and created the person of Adam. Well, the reason in Genesis Adam dies at 930 years is because the Jews totally misunderstood what they were reading. The older cuneiform reads that the phoenix appeared in the 930th year. Total systemic reset. It's total destroyed everything. We have fragments of the story in the Gnostic trimorphic protenoi document, which talks about Phoenix as the destroyer, and that Phoenix is coming back in the last day, in the last days, and that Phoenix is the keeper of the calendar, and that Phoenix was designed to keep the archons in check. Some of this material is also in another Gnostic text called On the Origin of the World. That one is in the Nag Hammadi library. So it talks about we have this pre-Adamite destruction. They took a 930-year-old civilization that was wiped out in a cataclysm and created Adam, who was 930 years old. Recently, I showed you what they did with Ubar-Tutu. Ubar-Tutu and Lamech are the same. On the Babylonian Berosus king list, you have 10 kings before the flood. In the Jewish written book of Genesis, you have 10 patriarchs. Well, the ninth one, the father of Noah, the ninth one was Lamech, father of Noah. But in the Babylonian version, you have Ubar-Tutu, who is the father of the flood survivor Zusethra, however you say his name. They're both, the 10th one is both the flood survivor. Both of them built the ark to survive the flood. The ninth one in the list is the father. Lamech is one, Ubar-Tutu is the other. But the Jews in Babylon, when they were looking at Ubar-Tutu in the list, they noticed very quickly that Ubar-Tutu lived a certain amount of years, an impossible amount of years, something like 38,000 years. And the Jews knew instantly that's not true. So they divided it by 360 like they were supposed to do when you do Shar reckoning, and they came up with 777. Well, excuse me, they came up with 77.7 for the life of Ubar-Tutu, which makes absolute sense, perfect sense. A man can live 77.7 years. But in the Genesis record, Ubar-Tutu is Lamech. So they said that Lamech lived for 777 years. There are many, 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 many things that you can find in Genesis that can be shown exactly where the origin of the material was. Remember, the book of Genesis wasn't written by Moses. Moses never existed. That's a fairy tale. The Jews first came into contact with all this information when they were taken into captivity in the 5th century BC, and they were allowed to peruse the Babylonian temple libraries. This is where they got their information. This is where they wrote their texts. The Enuma Elish texts, the Karsag tablets, the Atrahasis, the Era Epos, the Kudur Lagomar texts, they're all older, way older than anything in the Old Testament. So we have the very first Phoenix appearance in the historical record is 3895 BC. Many of you know that date. I've showed it many times. I did not date that. I have showed in my Chronicon all the different sources by how we got that exact date as year one of the pre-flood world, the 1656 years of Genesis. I didn't date it. I never dated it. It just happens to be on the 138-year Phoenix timeline. But that's not my doing. It's my discovery. So, biblical chronologist Stephen Jones used the Assyrian eponyms, the Book of Jasher, Book of Jubilees, and the Old Testament, and came up with the fact that year one was 3895 BC. And by many other species of analysis, we derived that exact date for one, Annus Mundi. So Phoenix appears again in 2653 during the pre-flood world, and appears a third time in 2239 BC in the Great Flood. It's often called the Typhon flood. We're not going to go into a whole lot of details. Phoenix appears again in 1963. Every single date I'm giving you, the difference between these dates is always in multiples of 138. In the year 1963 BC, as recorded in the Ramayana, there was a temporary pole shift. Quakes and bodies of water moved. Then one of the greatest cataclysms known in the entire world, probably worse than the Great Flood, was 1687 BC, also on the 138-year timeline. This is the Great Deluge. I have 5 videos. That's how much data we have. I have 5 videos that are packed with information on just the Great Deluge. Archaix Academy has 3 whole courses just about this one date, 1687 BC. This was the entire Heliolithic maritime empire collapsed. 138 years later, 1549 BC, I did not date this. Historian Castleton did, but three suns showed in this were seen in the sky. Unusual storms. The sun darkened, and the Cyclades region of the Mediterranean was destroyed. 138 years later, we have 1411 BC. We have another temporary pole shift. The sun moves very erratically. A new star appears, meteoric fallout, red dust, red mud, red rain, red rivers, red oceans. All this happens during this period of time. This is when the Israelites are fighting the races of the giants in the valley of Rephaim in Canaan. 138 years later is 1273 BC, and Atreus wins over the throne of Mycenae, of ancient Argos, because he was an astronomer, and he predicted the darkening of the sun, not an eclipse. Do not confuse the Phoenix phenomenon with the moon passing before the sun. In the Phoenix phenomenon, the sun goes dark, and the moon becomes red as blood. And red dust, red mud, and red rain fall like storms all over the earth. Some of it is so thick, it literally blankets whole civilizations. So 1273 incident of Atreus was mentioned of Socrates and Archilochus. Seneca mentioned it in Thyestes. Euripides mentioned it in Electra. It's also mentioned in the cuneiform stone tablet records of King Merciless II of Hatti. This is the Hittites in Anatolia. And it was just 138 years later that Atlantis fell in 1135 BC as the Tuatha Danann were invading Ireland and defeating the race of Furbolgs. As the sun darkened and the sea receded on several coastlines, the sea receded, and then tsunamis came and wiped out coastal cities. 1135 BC begins the 300-year Mediterranean Dark Age. It's called the Mediterranean Dark Age, but it was really a dark age around the entire world. Literacy plummeted, and the very first literary records that appeared was 300 years later, and they're highly cartoonish and very fantastic mythological records of actual historical events, known as Homer's Odyssey, Homer's Iliad, the whole epic of Jason and the Argonauts, that voyage, the legends of the Seven against Thebes, and the writings of Theognis and the writings of Hesiod, works and days. So these are the first writings, and it's after a 300-year dark age that literacy starts returning. But when it does, it's highly mythological. It's very different than what was preserved in the Minoan Linear B, Minoan Linear A. Both scripts were the result of Phoenix resets and the return of Phoenix again, and then the complete disappearance of Minoan Linear B as it fragmented into the Phoenician Greek alphabet is all because of Phoenix resets and the ex post facto assemblage of data after these cataclysms by survivors who are just re-educating themselves with the facts. The entire history of the world is one of resets. In this period of time, they were getting reset every 138 years. So we have an interesting 138-year period was 997 BC. A large meteorite impact on North America created the Badlands. I don't know if that's true. This is in the scientific record. I don't know, but according to the scientists, something in 997 wiped out North America. Now, I've been to Meteor Crater, Arizona, And I don't believe for a second a meteorite did that. I believe that that's more evidence of the book of Genesis, where it says fountains of the great deep issued forth. It looks just like a gigantic geyser to me, a caldera, where intense subsurface pressure just released and that whole area sunk in. The exact same thing that we have with the Archaix structure in the Sahara Desert, which used to be under salt water. That's why it's a series of salt domes. Even someone I vehemently disagree with on many issues, Randall Carlson, he happens to be a geologist, and he too understands that the Archaix structure is just a series of salt domes. It was created underwater under high pressure. That's why it has those rings. Jimmy Corsetti knows he's wrong, but it gave him his bread and butter. He became who he is today, being on Joe Rogan and all this stuff, because he promoted this lie and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. And a bunch of dumbass, gullible people in the public who are uneducated and have no idea how to separate fact from fiction fell for it. And now a whole bunch of people believe Atlantis was in the Sahara Desert. Absolute crap. Please pass on my ongoing, continue 2 years now, calling Jimmy Corsetti out to debate these issues. That man's running, and for good reason. He would be publicly embarrassed by the assemblage of facts that show that that's a geological structure and it's not Atlantis. Tangent number 1 today. So we continue on. In 997, we also have really interesting, dated to that period, interesting psalms that are also describing Phoenix phenomenon events, but we're not going to get into those. So you need to watch the videos. In the year 721 BC, we have a sun darkening episode that did not involve the moon, that was mentioned by many ancient authors during the early Roman monarchy. 721 was also the year that the 10 tribes of Israel vanished into the Assyrian frontiers when they were taken into captivity. We have the mentioning of this sun darkening in 721 in the Assyrian annals, in the Almagest. Plutarch, Ovid, Marcus Varro has a fantastic one. And when you read Marcus Varro, you realize, oh my God, this is not an eclipse. Whatever this was, it was amazing. A new star appeared. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. It became bigger than our own moon. There's the proof that it wasn't the moon. It darkened the sun, storms, earthquakes, tsunamis all over the world. Every bit of this is recorded by many, many authors. It is perfectly on the 138-year timeline of the Phoenix. Also mentioned flames in the sky, noises from the sky like skyquakes, all that recorded by the Chinese. 138 years later, 583 BC, after 5 years of continual warfare, the Medes and the Lydians are going to have it out. They're going to duke it out after 5 years. They decide they've had enough. Two empires are clashing, and right when the battle starts, in the middle of the day, totally without any warning, because the moon had nothing to do with it, the sun went dark, terrified both armies, and they sued for peace. Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylon was a witness, and the actual peace treaty is still preserved in Turkey today, in ancient Anatolia, on a monument at Yassilikaya, where it shows the Median king and the Lydian king coming together, both of them holding a black sun. All this is in my videos and in published books. Guys, I have to give this background history to the Phoenix, even though I'm giving an overview and the data is overwhelming. I have to give this because I'm about to show you the pages in this man's book. I have the pages photographed for you. But before a lot of new people that have never even heard of the Phoenix phenomenon, you've got to know this. You've got to see this history before I show you what this man wrote 270 years ago. So 100 and, oh, by the way, 583 BC, a whole lot more than happened in that. The ancient Delphic oracle was so startled by what happened, changed its calendar, and the Pythian calendar changed. in 583 BC. 583 BC was the final year of the old style Pythian calendar. 582, the very next year, was new style calendar. Whatever happened, they changed their whole calendar, just like Japan did. In Japan, they initiated a whole new epic, a whole new timekeeping system called Nihon Shoki in ancient Japan, behind this event that happened in 583 BC. I do believe I have a video where it shows the Japanese Book of Tea, shows the phoenix. 138 years later, we have 445 BC, and we have according to the historian De Jong, in this exact year of 445 BC, some type of comet appeared in the sky and caused worldwide fires, and about 800,000 people died. I don't know how he made that estimate, but I have this book on my shelf back here. The Stones of Time. 138 years later, we have 307 BC. I have shown in my presentations where the only historical reference that we have to the massive destruction that happened in 307 BC is only found in one text in the ancient world. And this is a common denominator that we have found in the Archaix research. That text is the Oerlind Dutch manuscript. It perfectly describes what happened. And we can use the Oerlind Dutch manuscript to date it to 307 BC. The Oerlind text has been under academic scrutiny for a long time, but that's what gives it away. That's why it's important. The reason I'm saying this is because there is another series of very important Phoenix-related material that's also under academic dismissal, such as Mother Shipton's prophecies. I'm not talking about the forged prophecies that in England a bunch of material was added. I'm talking about her actual prophecy was about the return of the two sky dragons. Now, the book of Jasher has two epic major Phoenix phenomenon events preserved in it, where the sun darkens, rocks fall from the sky, earthquakes, oceans slip their basins. It's in the two times this happened in the book of Jasher, and yet the book of Jasher it's chronologically perfect, and yet it's under academic dismissal. Another ancient record that's even more precise than the Old Testament concerning the Israelites fleeing and the ancient Greeks fleeing from Egypt in the Exodus period, when the doom shape appeared in the sky, recorded in Genesis as the 10 plagues. Recorded in Exodus as the 10 plagues. The Colburn Bible shows the Phoenix phenomenon so perfectly. It too is under academic dismissal. Oerlind manuscript, Book of Jasher, Colburn Bible, Mother Shipton, they're not the only ones, but in Archaix we have shown many ancient documents that, curiously, are being dismissed by academia, and the common denominator between every one of these documents is the Phoenix phenomenon. So 31, we have 169 BC. Oh, you know what? I got another record for that. Hold on. Let me look at something real quick. Let me look. I always got records and new data. Let me look at this real quick for you guys. Some of you Archaix veterans have never even heard some of these. So I mentioned earlier 2653 BC was one of the 3 times in the pre-flood world. Well, I now have documents that show that in Ireland at 2653 BC, we have a poisonous inundation of the sea, and the 7 lakes of Ireland overflowed. I really don't know what that means, but this is for that date, and that's a Phoenix. That's on the 138-year timeline. So we also have another record for the 721 BC sun darkening. We also have it's China, the first eclipse in the list of 36 recorded by Confucius. It's called the Chun Xiu, and the very first one, 721 BC. Also, 445 BC, where 800,000 people died, fire, something appeared in the sky. Daejeon, I just told you about. Here's another record. This is a new discovery that's not in any of my prior videos. But in 445 BC, October, the sun darkened over China, and the stars appeared in daylight. That's a pretty big eclipse there for the stars to appear in daylight. Let's see, 307 BC. Oh, look, so the Dutch Orland manuscript is no longer the only one. 307 BC, here's New Phoenix data right here. Over China was seen a broom star. Over Greece was seen a comet. It's the same thing, and it is recorded on the Parian marble. So the next date is 169 BC. That's 138 years after the 307 BC event. 169 BC. A torch is seen in the sky hovering over Italy, Rome. 138 years after that is a fateful date. Archaix veterans, you know about 31 BC. Chinese Han Dynasty record has a comet in the sky. Macedonian records, continental quake from the Aegean to Judea in the month of May during the Battle of Actium. The worst series of earthquakes to rattle Jerusalem up until that day was in 31 BC. The earthquakes were felt all the way as far as the mountains around Greece. 31 BC in the opposite hemisphere, a complete, total destruction by earthquakes of the Yucatan Olmec civilization as sky dragons were seen over the sky of Egypt. 31 BC, there's a lot more to 31 BC. This is just an overview. But in the new data, I have a list here of new discoveries that have not yet been incorporated. 31 BC, over Greece, a torch is seen for many days in the sky. An earthquake in Asia Minor, an earthquake in Tralles in Lydia, and many cities of Ionia, Mysia, and Anatolia fell. See, I didn't have all that data. I got it now, though. It's 31 BC. So those are all in between Greece and Jerusalem. That's Ionia. That's in between them. So it makes sense. Wow, man. I forgot about this list I have over here. All right. So 138 years later, in the old Britain annals, a bloody red sword appeared in the sky and blood rained from the sky. We know it wasn't blood. It was just some, it was the Phoenix fallout. Red rain, red mud, red dust. That was in 246. New record is Lincolnshire, England. The sea became as blood, and thousands of acres of coastline permanently fell into the sea. 246. That's on the 138-year timeline. 138 years after that, Lycosthenes in his own Chronicon wrote that a bloody pillar filled the sky. 384. The new material I have here is that anomalous phenomena like bright globes at night merged into a mighty sword in the heavens in the time of Theodosius, 384 to 390. 138 years later is 522 AD. It is the only year in all of world history, going back 9,000 years, it is the only year in all of world history, even going forward 9,000 years, that the Phoenix object, which maintains a 138-year periodicity, is in the sky in the same year as the Nemesis X object, which appears every 792 years. In this year begins the Dark Ages, the great 25-year Justinian darkness. King Octa of Kent recorded in the Welsh annals, or King Octa of Kent recorded a darkening of the sky. The Welsh annals have a darkening of the sky. There is earthquakes in the Aegean era. Olympia, the ruins of Olympia are heavily damaged in 522. There's a lot more for 522. It's actually 25 years of earthquakes, volcanoes, destructions, a haze, a dark. It's almost the return of a vapor canopy, but it didn't quite. But it did start the 400-year Dark Ages. Let's see. I do have a video about 522 and how the Vatican tried to cover it up by creating a new calendar. How do we know they created a new calendar? Because it's the calendar you go by now. And that calendar did not begin with the birth of Christ. It began in 526 AD, 4 years into this destructive period. And it was backdated. It was backdated. And when the new calendar was implemented, the AD calendar, Anno Domini calendar, it was specifically published, as I've shown on my channel, to conceal a more ancient cycle of 552 years. You're going to see charts that prove this. All right. Oh, I got some new stuff. Even Archaix veterans have never heard. So 138 years later is the year 660. In the year 660, we have strange auroras in the skies over Scotland, and the sky burned. But not much happened in the European world. But in Japan, we had Phoenix phenomenon for real. I just received this information from an errant who sent me all the data and the images. And we're going to get to it, but there was some really strange stuff happening in Japan in this year. Enough to where the Japan, all kinds of strange and severe phenomena during a battle. It happened, recorded in Bakji Annals of Samguk Sagi, published by Jonathan B. West in 2006, leading up to the demise of the Bakji Kingdom. Remember, Phoenix has always done this. That's why the Chinese always wanted to monitor the Feng, because when the Feng appeared, it pretty much it dictated the mandate of heaven. The mandate of heaven meant if the sun darkened and it wasn't predicted by an emperor, then the emperor's astrologers were beheaded and the emperor was banished. This is how important they took this stuff back then. Here in Japan, it's a long list, but animals are acting very erratic, and of course the Japanese would notice that. They don't have much. They only have an island. Only have a series of islands, so they would definitely be very much in tune with what was going on in nature. Yeah, more erratic animals, weird animals being born. In the 5th month, our 5th month is May. A gigantic fish was found on a bank and died, and it was considered to be a terrible omen. Let's see. A woman of unknown pedigree was found floating in a river on a bank, and she's like 12 feet tall, a female human, 12 feet tall, 13 feet tall, maybe. Well, I'll find out later. It's not the subject of this video, but strange sounds were coming from the sky, like ghosts at night. Some people said it was like locusts in the night or a person crying in the sky. Palace, we'll see. Oh, here it is. The water in all the wells turned as red as blood. There's Phoenix phenomenon stuff there. Numerous fish came out and jumped onto the shores to die. Wow. So many fish that even though the Japanese were eating them, there were still too many to be picked up. And the Sabi River turned red as blood. Toads in the tens of thousands gathered in the treetops. Why are the toads trying to get off the ground? The residents of Japan became extremely terrified. It's a lot in here. I can't go through all of it, but I may have to do a whole video on just the year 660. Yeah. An earthquake destroyed many pagodas. Sudden onslaught of wind and rain. Yeah. This is Phoenix phenomenon for real. I've told you guys many times, one of the hallmarks of the Phoenix phenomenon is these aren't ordinary quakes. These quakes are often attended by strange storms. Yeah. Since when does wind and rain and when does meteorological phenomena also attend an earthquake. It's showing that it's all part of the same system. Dark clouds in the sky resembling dragons fought with one another from east to west. Yeah, sky dragons. There it all. It's all here, guys. I can't go through it. This goes on. It's a long document. A ghost appeared, crying. The ghost is making an announcement to the people, saying that the city is lost, Pechi is lost, or the kingdom is lost. The kingdom is lost. Wow. There were strange anomalies in the moon. Yeah, I can't go on. You know what? That's a lot on this document. I'm just wasting time. I need to move on. But that's the year 660, guys. 138 years 138 years after that is 798, and there is quakes, the darkening of the sun, and the flooding of Mayan cities throughout Central America. Also, over in the year 798, over Constantinople, Christian city, anciently called Byzantium, the sun darkened for 17 days. Not an eclipse. Guys, you can't make this stuff up. This is every 138 years. In Ireland, the snow was particularly bad and people and animals died in 798. 138 years later, we have the year 936 AD. Over Belgium in Europe, the sun darkened and the sky turned blood red. Okay. Also, over Italy, there is an obscuration of the sky. The sun became like blood, and it's not sure if that was 936. There may have been an error. They're not sure if it's 936 or not, or 948, and it could be just a scribal error. But it doesn't matter. We already got something for 936. 138 years later, Tartaria enters the historical record. 1212 AD. 306,000 people of Holland. You have any idea how many people that is? 306,000 people in Holland were washed out to sea in a freak tsunami. 1212 AD. Rain of different colors fell upon France, and followed by a shower of blood. There were 3 crosses seen in the sky. Let's see, 1212. 1212 also begins the Pied Piper of Hamelin stories, the great cover-up of the church, because the church didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to tell the people, but everybody was wondering what happened to the children. Children vanished all across Europe. It's called, so a cover story was created in 1212, released by agents of the church, called the Children's Crusade, because the church wanted to be they wanted to be a voice of authority. But if they couldn't answer the mystery as to why hundreds of thousands of children all over Europe just vanished, then they weren't much of an authority. So they invented a lie called the Children's Crusade, and that children just suddenly got up and all come together and marched toward the Middle East, because the Bible says that the children of God are the ones that are blessed and that will take Jerusalem. Because in the Crusades, the Normans and the other European crusaders had not been successful in keeping Jerusalem from the Saracens, the Mamluks, and the Muslims. So the Children's Crusade was invented to cover up this mystery. It was in the year 1212. That is the exact year of the cover story of the Children's Crusade, to account for the disappearance of all these kids. This is also the origin of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, playing the flute, taking a bunch of kids that vanish into the wall. Remember, the Pied Piper of Hamelin stories it's a story of people from the surface world being led into the underworld. That's 1212 AD. 138 years later is 1488. 1488 was really interesting because it's Mother Shipton's birth, but we don't have any. I may have it. I just don't know. I don't think so. Well, I don't have any unusual phenomena for 1488, but Mother Shipton was born, and she told of the two sky dragons and predicted that the first of the sky dragons was going to appear 1 century after a world war. World War was 1940. 1 century later is 2040. 138 years later, we have 1626 AD. The Chinese record the sun darkening. There's meteoric rain. There's earthquakes in Italy. 30 towns are wrecked, 17,000 killed. Not much of a big deal. I mean, it was to those who died, but earthquakes happen every year. Not to that severity, but still. The 1626 is also the beginning of a timeline in North America, a countdown, a Phoenix countdown. 1626 is when the Dutch bought New York from the Manhattan Indians. Things get really interesting around 1626. 138 years later, we have 1764, when 500,000 Europeans look up at the sky. No one had predicted anything about an eclipse because the moon wasn't even involved, and suddenly the sun started going dark in 1764 in the month of May. One astronomer in an observatory was studying the sun as this was happening, astronomer Hoffman, and he entered it into the minutes of the Royal Astronomy Society that 1/5 of the sun's surface was covered by a gigantic black object. This is on the 138-year timeline. It traveled from north to south over the ecliptic. Same thing we find in Hittite records about an object coming out of the northern heavens going into the southern heavens. 138 years later. Well, don't get me wrong, we have earthquakes in India in 1764. The historical record says that great numbers perished in the quakes of 1764. Ganges, India. We have tornadoes in Germany that destroyed much forest. We have a rock larger than the sun exploded in the sky in 1764 near Philadelphia. We have a rain of blood that fell for several days across Europe in 1764. There's your blood rains again, part of the Phoenix phenomenon. Now, there's some old pictures I showed in this reel right here. You see the screen right now? These are dated from 1763. This is what was seen in the sky in 1763. There are some historians that think that this was misdated. Those fourth, I'm going to show them again. Let's go back and look at that again. Right here. This is from the year, this was published in 1764, but it's depicting what was seen in the skies in 1763. Here's the narrative right here. This old document right here. Narrative phenomena. I want you to see that. Look at that. Look at that picture. Look at that. You got swords in the sky, some type of pyramid-shaped thing with a serpent around it. Now, this is all frames of reference, but there were strange things that appeared in the sky in late 1763. This is what they saw. This is Phoenix phenomenon related material too, and there are writings that this was published in 1764. It could be a mistake. These events probably happened in 1764. But then again, I'm just going to tell you the facts. The actual date on here is 1764, and it claims that the events happened in 1763. All right, so let's keep going. So we're about to get into this guy's book now. I just wanted to do this recap for you guys. All right, what am I doing here? All that's good. So 138 years after 1764 is, of course, 1902. The hidden, in my past videos, I call 1902 the hidden reset. And there's a reason for that, because a whole bunch of things in the world all changed at the exact same time. And many of these things are very, very anomalous. And I've had to do multiple videos just to cover this, and I have more on the way. I have a lot more new 1902 stuff. I just haven't had a chance to release it. Let's see, what are we doing here? Have I covered all this? Yes, I have. Okay, I'm done. Done with that file. Moving on up. Moving on up. So I'm done with that file. Sure don't need that. Get it back over here. Hold on here. I am at the wrong file. So all these are older Phoenix presentations. And before I show you this guy's book, let me see here. All right. I don't want to make the mistake I made the other day. I want you guys to see this. So I'm going to remove that, present, share my screen. Okay. I drew this cover in prison, pen and ink. My publisher put color to it, but it was just a black and white picture. Many of you have read this book. I know because you've talked about it, and I know my sales. So When the Sun Darkens was the sum in 2009. This was the sum of all my Phoenix knowledge. Everything that there's a lot in here showing that the Phoenix began the fall of man. It was a reset, showing that Phoenix cycles, 3 of them added up to 1656 years. And at the end of the 1656 years, Phoenix destroyed the world again in the flood of Noah. It's all in this book. Many of the things in this book I just revealed to you. However, before this book could be released from publication, I had already come into contact with so much more Phoenix material that I had to write another book. This book is even more in depth, and it includes Nostradamus and Mother Shipton's prophecies because they both predicted the return of the Sky Dragon in the year 2040. It's basically Ragnarok 2040. This is my second published book. It was released in 2013 by Booktree Press. These books are packed with Phoenix phenomenon data. But after this book was published, I never stopped researching, and I came up in an even bigger book with even more Phoenix data is in Shocking Secrets of Antiquity, the racial wars of the Bronze Age, unusual artifacts, technolithic engineering, and the 2 cataclysms that buried history. Right here is a massive book with a gigantic bibliography. This is not a Booktree book. This is on Amazon. It is a paperback. You can get it. 400 pages of amazing data citing 247 books and reports. Remember, guys, I was a researcher and an author decades before I ever started my YouTube career. This information has been reviewed by many of you, but a lot of people triggered coming to my channel don't even understand just how well documented the Phoenix history is. So let's get those out of the way. See what else I'm sharing before I break off into this. Oh, it's time to show this guy's deal. Here it is. Let me drink to that. So, in the year 1781, this man's book, John Goodridge, is published. The Phoenix, an essay being an attempt to prove from history and astronomical calculations that the comet, which by its approximation to our Earth occasioned the change made at the fall and at the deluge, is the real Phoenix of the ancients. Probably one of the longest book titles in world history, by John Goodridge. The date at the bottom, 17, here it is, MDCCL triple XI. This right here is 1781, right here, published in London. This is what you can find. The PDF is free. There's two different ones. I found one on Archaix, which is a more realistic facsimile because the pages are still dull and in black like I'm showing now. Or you can get the Google Books version PDF for free, and it's ghost white. I don't like that one. I don't like it. So he wrote, an expedient which affords me a much greater prospect of having my wish accomplished, that of my works existing till the next return of the Phoenix, for the more general it may be at that time, of the more benefit I hope it will prove to the then inhabitants. This man literally wrote the exact same thing I did, but I'm going to have to inverse that. I wrote almost exactly what he did without even knowing he existed. And what I mean is that my first book on the Phoenix is a warning to the public. It's a warning to the public. The same thing he's doing. Hey guys, this is not known information. You need to know it. This is what's really going down. This is what the historians, this is what academia, this is what the governments of the world, this is what they've been hiding. They've been hiding it for so long that in the year 2025 now, they have totally forgotten that this information was supposed to be hidden. They have forgotten it as well. It's all in the alchemical treatises, as I'll show. So here it is. He's literally saying, I'm producing this work because I need to warn the public in the future of the return of the Phoenix. Here it is. The next return of the Phoenix. Whoever will read the Old Testament with attention will find that a day and a year is often mentioned as signifying one and the same. What? Matt LaCroix, did you hear that? I know you're still listening to me. Jimmy Corsetti, did you hear that? Billy Carson, I know you're still hiding somewhere. Did you hear that? There it is right there. One and the same. This entirely collapses the entire 432,000 year narrative that I've been exposing for 4 years. A shar is a turning of the stars. It's a day. In Genesis, the evening and the morning was the first day. What happens from the evening into the morning? Why is the evening in the morning different than the morning to the evening? Why? What is so significantly different that the entire framework of ancient mythology is based upon this timekeeping system? What is it? I'm going to tell you what it is. The evening into the morning was how you watched the turnings of the stars. Why? Because you can't see the stars in the daytime. All ancient systems were star count systems. We'll get to that. That's I got so many videos on that. I can't beat that up no more. And there he is, John Goodridge. There's the date, 17th of February, 1781. Now, 1781 is when the book was published. But in the book, he says he principally did his research in the 1740s, which means that John Goodridge had access to books that were in old libraries that had copies of older books that antedated the 1740s, by which he put his thesis together. That means there were books existing 270 years ago by which he derived his material. My design in the following essay is to show that a comet, you have to understand, anybody who has read Pliny, has read Hevelius, has read William Whiston, Isaac Newton, man, there's more. There's more. You'll understand. The word comet is almost interchangeable with any astronomical body that's not the moon and not the sun. They use the word comet for everything. But my design in the following essay is to show that a comet has been the cause of two grand catastrophes that have happened to this our Earth for the punishment of its inhabitants at the fall and at the deluge. Which comet, it is my intention to prove, as far as I am able, is the real phoenix of the ancients. This man was an errant. This is Archaix, 250 years before I was born. The real phoenix of the ancients. That is amazing. What's even more amazing is he's not just saying the flood was the cause of the phoenix. He's also saying the fall of man is the true story of Adam and Eve, and it too was the phoenix. And the phoenix was an astronomical body. So, having said that, I'm going to have to look at something else. What do we have here? Here's an old phoenix chart. There's a lot to unpack on this chart. There's a lot of very interesting things here. But if you see at the top over here, all dates from 3895 BC to 2040 AD obtained from other published works. None of the dates on this chart are Jason's. I did not date anything on this chart. As I've shown in all my published books, these dates derive from other authors through their own chronological calculations. Here it is. 3895 BC, year one of the pre-flood world. 552 years plus 552 years plus 552 years, 3 phoenix cycles. We have the Great Flood in 2239 BC, right there. As you can see, the legend, we have a dolmen right here. We have a 8-pointed star, and we have a little ecliptic symbol, an obliquity symbol. If you look in the legend tells you what these mean. And you have a large black sphere, not a small black sphere. Here's the legend on the side. This chart right here is like 7 or 8 years old. It's pretty old. So I was still believing in the globe phenomenon back then. I'm a simulationist now. I don't believe we're on a planet going around the sun 93 million miles an hour. I don't believe that because the ancient star charts show no parallax. They're the exact same ones we have today, and it's impossible. So, and there's many other reasons why I believe that. But here is worldwide depopulation by the phoenix. Here is Earth rotation is altered. The star is new star appears. These are in the legends and traditions for that time. And the dolmen means that the event was accurately predicted. That's what those symbols. So I have all these charts. You guys know I'm a chart fanatic. Got all these charts. I want to show this chart because what he just said, the fall of man and the flood were caused by the phoenix. And this is the phoenix chart. And he's absolutely correct. On the 138-year Phoenix chronology, both the fall of man, 3895 BC, and 2239 BC, he nailed it. Now, he wasn't a chronologist, so he can be forgiven any of his chronological errors because he didn't have access to really accurate data back then. But conceptually, he nailed it. The fall of man and the flood, Phoenix astronomical body, four different elements combined to produce this small little data point. He nailed it. This is not my chronology. This is a history of the world published by Stephen Jones in The Secrets of Time, using the Assyrian eponyms, the Book of Jubilees, the Book of Jasher, and the Old Testament. He put together a history of the world and determined and is able to show that year one, not of the year one of the world, but year one of the pre-flood period was 3895 BC. There it is. I didn't make that up. He also showed that the flood was 2239 BC. Exactly. Here's another Phoenix chart. Again, 3895 BC is right here on the left. Year one, Anno Mundi. This is the Adam and Eve reset. It is known as the fall of man. Everything before that is a 930-year-old super civilization. But we have to go back to the Anuna calendars, 5239 BC. To even talk about that. Here's the 1656 years of the pre-flood world. It ends with the Great Flood right there. Here's all the other Phoenix events. The black discs are systemic resets where the entire world was reset. Everything else is either hemispheric or very local. There's the end. There's 2040 is the next one right there. 2040 is the next one. And it's going to be a particularly bad one because it's next to last. Here's 2178. It's the final one. Keep that in mind because this man's going to say something else that blows your mind. There's the last one, and I've already shown in my presentations that is the immortal number. It is the reset protocol where the entire system reboots back to Adam and Eve, Genesis, fall of man. The Adam and Eve, we're on a loop, guys. This date of 3895 BC, it's actually 3895 BC is actually the coming future. It's our future in 2178. Total systemic reset. Those little butt-naked Adam and Eves running around there on the surface world, yeah, that's us. After we have lost 100% of our infrastructure and we are sent back to start at year one all over again. That's us. Here it is again. All these little Phoenix charts show the same thing. There's the fall of man, 3895 BC. There's the Great Flood, 2239 BC. There's the end of the entire timeline, 2178, where it reboots all the way back to year one, 3895 BC. Man, I just had an epiphany. Better write that down. Look at this monster pen. I just had an epiphany. This epiphany will lead to an entire video. What a shocker. It's a beautiful pen here. Y'all can see it. Can't tell you what this is, guys. Oh, man. It's going down. It's going down. All right. So, let's get out of this. We're not going to spend time here. You guys can see. Here's another. These are just different ways of looking at the same thing. This is all Phoenix timeline. Again, this one also has this is a more updated version with a legend up here at the top that shows if it's a world cataclysm, sun darkened, regional disaster, sun darkened, if Phoenix is actually observed, vapor canopy has begun, if it's dated in the month of May, if it was accurately predicted, and if a new star appears. This is the legend, and you can see. You can look at each one and see what the legend shows. There's a bunch of them. It also shows right here, 2040 is the next one. And 2178 is the end. Right there. 2178 is when you loop right back to Genesis. Remember, we're in a construct, guys. This is a perceived reality, not an actual reality. This is all about programming. We're not even talking about the Great Pyramid today. Here's the entire timeline right here. All the red ones up here are the Phoenix, 3895 BC. begins the pre-flood world, a Nuna civilization in North America. Here's the Mayan long count begins. 3439 BC, Enki appears as the ancient Enoch. He appears with the Anuna, begins to build civilization. Here's 2239 BC, the Great Flood. This man nailed it. He said the fall of man and the Great Flood were both caused by the Phoenix. It's exactly what you see here from my data sets. Remember, these charts don't prove anything. What proves it is all the data sets that are attached to every single one of these little red dots. 2040. Anyway, all these charts are on my website. Here's another Phoenix chart. This one shows more simulation theory stuff, showing that we're in a loop. You can see the simulation theory stuff on the side. Impossible arithmetic, but it's all true. It's all in the historical record. We have the facts to back it all up. So here's a different way of looking at the Phoenix phenomenon, because on the side you can see a ball, you can see a legend on the side where it shows the Phoenix date, and it lets you know if the destruction was worldwide, hemispheric, worldwide, hemispheric, worldwide, hemispheric, worldwide, hemispheric, all the way down the list. A lot of new Phoenix phenomenon information is in this chart. So the man said the fall of man and the Great Flood were Phoenix events. It's exactly what we find here. 3895 BC, the goddess is venerated. In astronomy, ancient pre-flood astronomy, the Pleiades star, 7 sisters, the Orion and the Dog Star, these are the venerated constellations. There is no hint of a zodiac back then other than the lunar one, because a zodiac is only of value at night, when you can see the stars constellations. A solar zodiac has no utilitarian value. It's all conceptual. You can't see the star patterns during the daytime. Somebody invented that system way later. The lunar zodiacs, where the moon went through the houses of the zodiacs and star patterns, is much more ancient. However, we are now tilted at 23.5 degrees obliquity, and the original lunar zodiac has been moved, and it's a totally different series of constellations that people are looking at today that did not exist in the pre-cataclysm world. So he's dead right. 3895 BC. Here's 2239 BC. All the sun calendars begin. 2239 BC. This begins the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. In the Sumerian Akkadian, Utu Shamash is added to the pantheon. How do you add a sun god to a pantheon that goes back 1,000 years? Because the sun was unknown. They were living under a vapor canopy. That's why. And every single night, that vapor canopy magnified the stars. It was a magnification lens at night. At nighttime, the mesosphere dropped in temperature. The drop in temperature created a massive lens that, from the perspective of the surface of the world, looking up into the sky, the stars were magnified. In the daytime, as the sun passed over the canopy, it heated up the sky. The heating up of the sky fogged out the mesosphere. The mesosphere never allowed anybody to see the sun. They just saw brightness in a certain area of the sky. And under that vapor canopy, men lived and developed their systems, their mythological systems and their calendars. And under that system, the only timekeeping systems that would have ever been important was the evening to the morning. Why? Because it's only at night that you can see the stars. And that's what Shar is, a turning of the stars. 2239 BC, the Great Flood. The Phoenix destroys the world, and after that, all of a sudden the Egyptians add Horus to the pantheon. Why would the Egyptians do the same thing the Sumerians did, and at the exact same time? Why? They did it after the Second Intermediate Period, which is a very clever way for Egyptologists to say, well, here's a 340-year period that we have absolutely no development, no history, no records. None. So they call it a second intermediate period. But the truth of the matter is no one in the world had any records for that period of time. It's all mythological and traditional because Phoenix appeared and completely destroyed it all. And what emerged out of the ashes of the Phoenix in 2239 BC was the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. Now, all of a sudden, the goddess is vanquished, the patriarchy emerges, and the sun and the children of the sun dynasties are born all over the world. Subject matter of that book, Children of the Sun, right here. This is the subject matter of this amazing book. Huge book, Children of the Sun, right here. W.J. Perry, his only mission, huge book, tiny print, was to show you that all the children of the Sun dynasties collapsed in the same year, 1687 BC, the Archaix Deluge. Doesn't specify how, doesn't even theorize why. He just shows the archaeology. Every dynasty in the world collapsed on the exact same time. So anyway, let's go with here's a Typhon. Yeah. So this is the Typhon flood. This is known as the Typhon flood, 2239 BC. Typhon is the Phoenix. Here's your 2178. My Archaix veterans know all about this. This was a discovery that was made by accident. This is the immortal looping number. This is how it does. It's very simple to replicate. I've had other YouTubers try to disprove this and then turn around, show the math on deal, and then say Jason of Archaix is absolutely right. I do not understand this, but it's true. My premise is very simple. We live in a construct. It is a mathematical construct. However, it is moored to something else. And there's one number in all of our arithmetics that shows where our arithmetic, which is a photonegative of a real arithmetic that exists somewhere else, is actually connected to. And when you take the numbers 9999, which is 9,999, and you subtract every single number from 2 all the way to 9999 and subtract every single one of them from their holographic reflection, they all, through a series of permutations, collapse to 0, except for one number. That number is 2178, and there's no scientific explanation as to what is going on. I've got 3 videos about this number, but here's the simplest demonstration that 2178 minus 8712, which is the reflection of that number, is 6534. But 6534 is the reflection of 4356, which produces 2178 again. 2178 minus its own reflection, 8712, becomes 6534, but 6534 minus its own reflection of 4356 becomes 2178. It's an immortal looping number. And every single permutation here is also a multiple of 2178. And what I mean is 2178 minus 8712 is 6534, but 6534 is 2178 times 3. Also, 4356 on that chart is 2178 times 2. 8712 is 2178 times 4. This is the immortal looping number, and there's no other numbers in existence that do this, that carry this property. And 2178 is immortal. It loops forever. And yet, it is 138 years after the next Phoenix phenomenon date, 2040. You can't make this stuff up. I didn't make it up. I didn't date any of these Phoenix events. They're all 138 years apart. And yet, the next one in May of 2040 is 138 years from 2178 Anno Domini, which tells me that total systemic reset back to Genesis, back to being those butt-naked Adam and Eves running around in the fall of man. Now, this is about, I can't go into a lot of detail about all that. I have so many videos that talk about why we're in a construct, what's going on, proofs that we're in a construct. This isn't the video for that. This is an overview to get through the amazing data this man has presented in these videos. All right. Phoenix cycle of 552-year periods again. 3895 BC. Can't miss it. 3895 BC, Phoenix ruin, new heavens and new earth. Yeah, the destruction was so total that the survivors thought it was a new heavens and new earth. Genesis reset begins, the pre-flood world. This is what this guy is saying in 1781. This is the fall of man. It is the appearance of the Phoenix. Right here, 2239 BC, Phoenix ruin, great flood of Noah. This is also the appearance of the Phoenix, according to this guy. He's not a chronologist, but just studying ancient myths, legends, and Old Testament, and he cites Hevelius. He put it together. To me, it's astonishing. Here's a better chart for you to understand what's going on right here. This is the 1656 years of the pre-flood world, right there on the left. 3895 BC is the fall of man, caused by the Phoenix. 2239 BC is the Great Flood, caused by the Phoenix. Then there's one Phoenix cycle of 552 years till the next systemic reset. 552 years between these massive systemic reset periods, because it begins a whole nother 1656 years. In 1687 BC, the Archaix deluge, every single civilization in the world collapses. Now, this begins 1656 years, which, look at the right margin. 1,000 years ago, Rashi wrote that the world is destroyed every 1656 years. It's divisible by 138. So we have the Americas destroyed in 31 BC. That was the hemisphere. It wasn't the whole world now, it was a hemisphere. But 552 years after that, we have the Great Dark Ages begun in 522. And in 526 AD, the Vatican has an agent develop a new calendar, and they actually publish it was done to hide the 552-year cycle. Can't make this stuff up. It's all on my channel. Alexander Del Mar's book from 1901 is the book that mentions this data, and I have a whole video about it. Anno Domini reset. And here it is. Look at the final one. 2178 is on the 1656. It's a perfect mathematical pattern. 2178, immortal loop goes right back to 3895 BC. This is the loop right here. All right, so let's return back to what this guy's talking about. Get off my charts. So I showed you all that based off this one page. That for the punishment of its inhabitants at the fall and at the deluge, which comet it is my intention to prove, as far as I am able, is the real Phoenix of the ancients. So we see that all this Archaix research wasn't just making something up. All these data sets that put these amazing chronological charts together for anybody to verify themselves. This guy in 1781 published a book that says the same thing. He doesn't have to provide the math. He conceptually identified the beginning of the pre-flood world, the fall of man, as the appearance of the Phoenix, an astronomical body. He said the Great Flood was the appearance of the Phoenix, an astronomical body. You can't get more precise than that. And we're not done with him. According to many of the ancients, the antediluvian days were more equal than the present, as was their year also, which consisted of 360 days. So we have well, you guys know I've cited so many ancient books that talk about the 360-day calendar, pre-cataclysm year. He's just verifying it here. And upon man's transgression, the change took place, of which I believe a comet was the cause. Before I quit the subject entirely, I shall endeavor to show the probability there is of tracing the comet from the fall to the deluge. Here's the second time he's reinforcing that the phoenix appeared at the beginning of the pre-flood calendar and at the end of the pre-flood calendar, giving us our 1656 years. As Noah and his family would see the comet before they entered the ark, they would, of course, make it known to their posterity after the flood. And also, what was the cause? I have before said that the comet which occasioned the change at the fall would likewise occasion the deluge. So he's just reinforcing, again, he's saying the fall and the flood were both caused by the phoenix, and that the knowledge of the phoenix would have been known to Noah, and the survivors of the flood would have passed it on to the next generation. And I have shown that this is exactly the case. I have before said that the comet which occasioned the change at the fall would likewise occasion the deluge, which may be perhaps objected to by many, because the 3 periods between both eras do not exactly agree with the chronology of that time. I think, in the first place, that the comet's periods must have been shorter before the deluge than they have been since. This man just gave us a gem. He just gave us a gem. Now, in his book, he theorized that by his time in 1781, the Phoenix cycle period was 575 years. He's not a chronologist. He's wrong. And he based his estimate off the fact that he attributed importance to a comet that appeared in the year 1680 that had nothing to do with the Phoenix at all. So he's guilty of many other authors in basically transposing modern events in their time to ancient things that they were studying, and then linking the two when then there was no link necessary. 1680 was a comet, but it wasn't the Phoenix. So, but the gem that he gave us is right here. He said, let me see, likewise, which may be objected because, okay, which may be perhaps objected to by many because the 3 periods between both eras do not exactly agree with the chronology of the time. He just told you that from the fall to the flood were 3 appearances of the Phoenix. I don't have to, my Archaix veterans, I don't need to show you guys all this stuff over and over, but I've got a lot of people listening that are not Archaix veterans, and I'm going to have to hammer it in. I'm just going to have to hammer it in. That doesn't show 552-year periods. Which one shows the 552? Here, well, here, this one does. Yeah, right there. Look at that. He said the three appearances of the Phoenix from the fall to the flood. Here's another data point. He's adding more detail without being a chronologist. Here's the first one. 3895 BC causes the fall of man. This is 552 times 3 to 2239 BC, the Great Flood. These are his 3 appearances. There's a better chart than this. From the fall to the flood, 500, you can see it at the bottom right here, 552 years, 552 years, 552 years. Again, conceptually, he nailed it without being a chronologist. Got to be impressed with that. Got to be impressed with that. But also, Moses takes no notice of what was the immediate cause of the deluge. There are many passages in ancient history to be found which declare that a comet did pass by at that time and was the cause. It's pretty interesting. Now he says Whiston. He's talking about William Whiston, very popular author. So Mr. William Whiston says that Hevelius in his cometography, oh my God, I can't stand that word. Cometography, cometography, such a dumb word. Cometographia. I hate the word comet. I really do. But this is the word they were using. Bears testimony of several ancient authors who speak of the direful effects of the comet that appeared in the reign, Archaix veterans, in the reign of Typhon, the Phoenix. That's the Great Flood. That is the deluge. Or immediately before it, say, nay, he says further that in ancient books and records there are accounts of a comet's passing by at the deluge. Fifthly, to prove that the comet is that of much celebrated emblem of antiquity, perhaps of the resurrection also, the Phoenix. He's just reinforcing what his subject matter is, that the fall and the flood were both caused by the Phoenix, and that the period between them was 3 visitations of the Phoenix, and that the Phoenix is an astronomical body, and an astronomical body is what caused the flood and the fall. He's just reinforcing all that. Amongst the many things delivered by Noah, I believe the Phoenix to be one. I do too. Noah had to have passed that down, because in the book of Jasher, the next individual who knew about the Phoenix was Jacob. And Jacob used his Phoenix knowledge to pray at a certain time for the sun to darken and for rocks to fall from the sky and to kill the Canaanites while the Israelites survived. The descendants of Ishmael, the Arabians, they say that this rara avis, the Phoenix, basically appears once in 500 or 600 years. We have it as 552 years exactly. Noah and his sons had the knowledge of the Phoenix, which, owing to the distance of time, place, and different languages, was differently related, and at last by war or other direful calamities was entirely lost. Again, I show over and over and over in my presentations that the acquisition of information is always ex post facto. I've got videos that show the publication of ancient manuscripts and when they came out. I have videos that show when all the universities and libraries were built. I have videos that show in the mythological and traditional annals when events occurred. And you can line all those charts up together and you can see the pattern of resets is perfect. I've got videos that show the development of scripts. Yeah, Rongo, linear A, linear B, booster Peterfon, whatever it's called when it goes back and forth. I show charts that show the development of these writing types, and it shows that they appear and disappear because of resets. I've got charts that show the rise and fall of culture and empires. And again, it follows the Phoenix resets, the changes of the mandate of heaven, the disappearance of mass populations, whole kingdoms that just fall off the map, the sudden appearance of kingdoms like Tartaria, and then their sudden disappearance. It all falls within the Phoenix phenomenon. It will then plainly appear that this comet and the Phoenix of the ancients are one and the same. That's incredible to find that. The comet's periods, one with another, are upon an average about 575 years. This certainly agrees with the return of the Phoenix. Well, he's about 25, 23 years off. He's about 23 years off. And I was looking through his notes, and I kind of he mentions the 23-degree obliquity caused by the flood, the 23-degree obliquity, the tilt of the earth caused by the flood. And I wonder if he added those 23 years to 552 to produce that 575. I don't know what he did, but it doesn't even matter because he wasn't a chronologist, and he did get it right that the Phoenix appears in between 500 and 600 years. His estimate of 575 is due to a mistake because he attributed more to the appearance of the comet of the year 1680 than he was supposed to. The comet of 1680 has nothing to do with the Phoenix. But because he thought it could, he came up with a 575-year timeline. Doesn't take away from his Phoenix thesis at all. We can forgive him because he wasn't a chronologist, just like I have forgiven so many other authors in the books that I have read because they just didn't have the chronographical data. Making use of the antediluvian year, which was 360 days. From all the researches I have been able to make, it appears to have had its origin in the antediluvian world, and that Noah, for reasons before mentioned, brought the account out of the ark with him. He's talking about the Phoenix. The Phoenix, it says the origin of the Phoenix comes out of the dark of the pre-flood world. And that what we know of the Phoenix afterward comes because Noah preserved the information. And by extension, the survivors of the Typhon cataclysm in 2239 BC preserved a knowledge of the Phoenix. And then the subsequent events in 1963 BC, in 1687 BC, 1411 BC, 1273 BC, 1135 BC, the true date of the destruction of Atlantis, 997 BC, 721 BC, 583 BC, 445 BC, 307 BC, 169 BC, 31 BC, 246 AD, 384 AD, 522 AD. The reason it appeared with such regularity, it was easy to follow, but civilizations are being destroyed and wiped out, and this information is becoming more and more lost until the time of the Greeks, when everybody thinks that the Phoenix was a silly bird that appeared in the sky, burned up in the sun, and out of the ashes of the Phoenix emerged a new age. I don't know what happened. Okay. Seventh and last head, wherein I propose to show that the comet which occasioned the foregoing catastrophe will be the cause of the general conflagration and finishing of all things with respect to this earth. This man linked the Phoenix to an astronomical body, that astronomical body to the fall of man, starting the pre-flood world, to the great flood, ending the pre-flood world, and now tells us this exact same object called the Phoenix is going to be the thing that ends the entire world. How did he know that? He's not a chronologist, and he sure as hell didn't know about the 138-year periodicity of the Phoenix and the fact that it falls on 2178, the eternal looping number, the programmed reset to the construct. He didn't know any of that, and yet he nailed it. He nailed it. Can't make this stuff up. Therefore, I say that this comet may, by the appointment of God, a benefactor protocol, from the beginning, or since the world was framed, be the destruction of this earth. Phoenix was designed to keep the archons in check. It's a checks and balances system to keep the elite from ever becoming too powerful. Because every time they become too powerful, we get exactly what we have today. Nothing but psyops and thievery and fuckery all over the world. Phoenix, we have 15.5 years left before the return of the Phoenix, which basically wipes the slate clean. It's a program, it's a reset protocol that brings materials, events in, and takes away materials and discontinues events. It's an editing system, but it's progressive. Many times on the 138-year timeline, whatever the overseer system is monitoring, it decides every 138 years what areas need to be affected the most, what materials need to be moved, what needs to be introduced, what needs to be taken out, what needs to be edited. This is where you get your syncs, your Mandela effects, your synchronicities, your deja vus. This is where you get a whole bunch of people all of a sudden requiring insane asylums because they understand that the world was very different 2 days before, and they have no effing idea what happened, while everybody else, the NPCs, are just going with the program because they've perceived absolutely no change to their reality. The Phoenix phenomenon is harrowing, but it's also just a program. So I don't want to get into the whole souls, why we're actually here, and all that. That's not the subject of this video. I've got many videos that explain that and how the Phoenix fits into that. I just want to talk about this guy and what he brought to the table. This man just told us, what you're seeing in these charts. He just told us. And he did this in 1740s, 1750s, published it in 1781. He's literally showing you right here, 2178. Damn it. 2178. Here's what he's showing you, 2178. He said Phoenix, which started, he had no access to this chronological information I'm showing you now. He literally told us right here that that Phoenix started the fall of man. It caused the fall of man. Check. 3895 BC. It appeared 3 times in the antediluvian world. Check. 552 times 3 is 1656. 1656 year is 2239 BC. That's the Great Flood in the reign of Typhon. Typhon is the Phoenix. Check. He got that right. Now we go all the way to the end over here, and he got that as well. Not knowing a damn thing about the 138-year timeline, not knowing anything about Mother Shipton's prophecies, not knowing anything about what Nostradamus said about May 2040, nothing. Here it is right here. He said Phoenix will be responsible for the absolute end of the timeline. There it is, 2178. 138 years after 2040. So impressed with this guy's book. So impressed with the information he's brought to the table. And here's the end. Finish. Right here. There it is. Finish. I'm not done, but we're done looking at his book. But I have to bring to your attention some more stuff. So what is this? Well, I'm sharing my screen right now. All right. Oh, I'm not done. We're not done with this video. But what this man brought to the table from 270-year-old research is absolutely astonishing, considering the fact he had no access to all the information that I've brought to the table. So we're citing completely different sources here. I need to stop sharing. Add the stage. I don't know which one I'm looking at. All right. Yeah, man, that's it just shocks me. So real quick, just so we're on the same page. Those clips I just showed you give us a series of facts. That series of facts that his book gives us are already all shown from multiple different vantage points in the Archaix data. Every bit of it. Goodridge's book on the Phoenix was published in 1781. According to ancient sources before the 1740s, according to him, the year was 360 days in antiquity. That's something I've covered many times. The author claims that the Old Testament teaches that a day and a year are interchangeable in different calculations. That's where we get the shar from. Absolutely correct. The phoenix of the ancients was an astronomical body. Check that box. The phoenix caused the fall of man, the Genesis Adam and Eve reset, which began the antediluvian world 1656 years. Check that box. The phoenix returned in the antediluvian world and caused the great flood. Check that box, the Typhon flood. He said all this. The phoenix visited 3 times in the antediluvian period from the fall to the flood. Check that box. 552 years. The phoenix cycle times 3 is 1656 years. The distance in time between the fall and the flood, 3895 BC to 2239 BC. Ancient records describe the deluge as caused by an astronomical body. Check that box. Goodridge linked Typhon to the flood caused by the phoenix. Check that box. Knowledge of the phoenix was passed on by the survivors. Check that box too. Knowledge of the phoenix was eventually lost due to war, calamities, future resets, and just over the passage of time. Check that box as well. The phoenix period had to be from 500 to less than 600 years. Check that box as well. It's 552 years. Goodridge wrote that Phoenix will bring the final conflagration. Check that box. 2178, the immortal loop number of resets, is it's basically the clear cache number. 2178 is 138 years after 2040, the next Phoenix phenomenon date. Phoenix represents the beginning and the end. Yeah, the fall of man is both the beginning and the end. The fall of man. So basically what I'm telling you is, when I've said this in prior videos, the future year of 2178, the immortal loop year, 138 years after the Phoenix, is actually the year 3895 BC as year 1 of the next timeline. It's when we are butt naked like Adam and Eve, and a new heavens and a new earth has appeared because everything has been absolutely, totally destroyed. And we're starting over. So Phoenix represents the beginning and the end of the world. Check that box. John Goodridge wrote his theory from old books that existed in the 1740s, and Goodridge wanted his work to be a warning of the return of the Phoenix, the exact same reason I published my books on the Phoenix. Wanted people to know. So we're going to check that box too. So, what is this? Am I sharing? Add stage? Okay, I am sharing my screen. I'm sharing my screen. All right, cool. Let's look at something real quick before I put it on the screen. I need to get to it. Let me go to my playlist. Yeah, man. Let's see here. You guys all ought to see this now. There it is. Yeah. All right, cool. All right. So this is my Phoenix playlist. Oh my God, man. What is going on? Why can't I just get these things to work the way I want to? My computer's touchscreen, but sometimes when I touch it, it just doesn't want to do what I want it to do. All right, we're going to go out of my settings. I'm going to find another way in. Your videos. Instead of the Creator Studio, I'm just going to use the public version. There it is, playlists. All right, cool. Now we're here. Now we're here. And we will, here is the playlist for I just don't like the way. I do not like the way. Damn. Sometimes touchscreens suck because they will not let the mouse move the stuff I want it to move. So these are Phoenix videos, a massive amount of Phoenix videos right here. And for some reason I can't blow this up the way I want to, and it's pissing me off. Because if I touch the screen, it won't go the way I want it to. I got to be careful. So, like, no wonder I'm not even in the playlist. I'm so tech retarded, guys. Yeah, there's the videos there. All right. Here we go. There we go. There we go. All right. There we go. I just got to be careful. So, this is a 3 hour and 48-minute video, Occultus Mysterium. This is the Alchemy Codex of Judaica. I'm showing in this video hundreds of pictures from the alchemical, from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance, the alchemical, magical grimoires, all these ancient texts that hide the phoenix everywhere. In reference to Adam and Eve, resets, the elite hiding in the underworld while butt-naked people are on the surface world. That's the whole subject matter of that video, showing you how the phoenix was known and it was very well hidden. Part 1, the reset machine. This is a montage of all my first Phoenix videos, which are packed full of data. This is a montage, 2 hours long, of about 8 of my first Phoenix videos. Part 2, Hidden in the Sky Sim, Phoenix Phenomenon. Again, the montage continues. Between these two videos is almost 20 Phoenix videos. Here's the third one, Part 3, Fractured Timelines, the Phoenix Phenomenon. If you don't think I haven't covered all my bases, you haven't seen my Phoenix Phenomenon playlist. Yeah, what you've seen in this video doesn't scratch the surface of the data that I bring to the table on this 138-year chronology. It's right here. Part 4, Keeping the Archons in Check. Again, these are all montages, meaning a whole bunch of Phoenix presentations in the order you're supposed to watch them were all put together. This is my Phoenix playlist on YouTube. Part 5, Van Vlog Reset Rants. These are all when I'm in my apocalypse mobile. You guys have seen my van. When I'm in my van doing Phoenix presentations, just straight out of the hip. Some of those are my most popular videos. I'm talking about things like what to do before the reset, what the world's gonna be like after the reset. I'm talking about all kinds of things about the Phoenix phenomenon. Part 6, They Hide in the Deep. It's another 2 hours, a bunch of videos all put together. Part 7, 1902 AD and the Ancient Phoenix Reset. Yeah, this was the state of my information on 1902 at the time. I've got more 1902 videos after I did these montages. Part 8, The Last Days of the Sun, 2 hours. 2 hours and 20 minutes. This too is a bunch of Phoenix videos all put together. Understanding Phoenix and Nemesis X. It's just 13 minutes. But it'll give you a basic understanding. What is the Phoenix? What is Nemesis X? What do they have to do with each other? The Mechanical Eye, Hidden Constructions in the Sky. From Giza to the Phoenix. This is about the Great Pyramid and the arithmetic attached to it that is basically counted out in 138 inch segments. It's very interesting. Myth of the Phoenix. This is another old book about the Phoenix. This right here is a breakdown of a whole nother book about the Phoenix. Epic Confirmations. This is When the Sun Darkens. I just showed it to you earlier today. This is a actual audio book reading my entire book, When the Sun Darkens, about the Phoenix. My very first Phoenix book. Acambaro Artifacts of the Vapor Canopy World, right here. Ice Age Techniques, Vapor Canopy, and how Graham Hancock threatens establishment science. Here it is right here. Dark Age Reset Phenomenon. From Dark Age to Dark Age. These are all on my channel right now. Easter Island, the Ogaigian Deluge, Part 1, Phoenix Ruin. Part 2, the Ogaigian Deluge, 1687 BC, When the Sun Died. Decoding the Gate of the Sun. Part 3, the Ogaijian Deluge, 1687 BC, Satellites of Tiwanaku. Part 4, the Ogaijian Deluge, Sumero Sino, Old World Calendars Killed by the Phoenix. Part 5, Poseidon Rising, Flood of Ogaijis. The Titan Code unveils AIX. This is what was that? War of the what? War of the Underworld. This is about the Phoenix phenomenon, how the elite hide in the underworld, and it was even known in ancient times in the Titan lore. Fall of the 13th sign, history of the zodiac. It's all about the Phoenix. Underworld, libraries of the deep, arcs of our underworld, the secret of Firmicus Maternus. That's deciphering the lunar Phoenix matrix code, May 2040. Nostradamus and the Great Pyramid and the Phoenix Return, May 2040. Vulcan, mystery object of the 1800s that science hid. Vulcan was another ancient name for Typhon. Phoenix Phenomenon Video Archive, now on Podia. So I gotta crunch that down real quick because that is just the beginning. Let's see what else we got here on this Phoenix playlist. Man, we got a lot. Advanced class Archaix. Students only, not a primer. We talked a lot about the Phoenix in that. Phoenix Arcanum. That's a short little intro. Phoenix and the Philosopher's Stone, the secret of alchemical programming. Yeah, it's only 16 minutes, but it'll make you understand what they were hiding in all these texts. St. Paul's Cathedral, Phoenix Prophecy in Stone. 1890, the elite preparing for post-1902 reset. Harrowing truth of the Anno Domini calendar, how the papacy hid the Phoenix. Colburn Bible's Lost Secrets of Phoenix. Retroactive history, calendars are post-reset constructions. Archaix Walk Through the Dark. Phoenix Apocryphon, Corpus Typhonius Mysterium, 3 hours and 25 minutes. This is an abbreviated summation of the entire Phoenix phenomenon data. Yeah, it can't possibly fit it all in there, but it's a really good general overview of how complex the Phoenix history is. The sun is a local phenomenon. Book of the Damned, Fortean view of the other side of reality. Yeah, Charles Fort said 1902, that other dark age. Phoenix Knight, keeper of the Arcanum. This too is some really good Phoenix material. Cipher of Egypt, stunning proof the Great Pyramid not built by Cheops. Yeah, the proof is because I'm showing the 138 sequencing patterned all throughout the pyramid, showing it had an alternative function, and it's linked to the entire chronology of the Phoenix. Kind of makes you wonder why in the alchemical text they always show Phoenix close to a pyramid, or they show a pyramid close to Phoenix many times. This right here is history fake? The uncontested challenge. Yeah, I'm driving. That challenge is out to anybody. Anybody wants to meet that challenge, that's an 8-minute video. And what I'm telling you in that 8-minute video, not one person has brought any evidence to the contrary to the table. And there's no way that these things that I'm saying in this video can be true. And yet they are, proving 100% that the 138-year periodicity of the Phoenix is real and that it was encoded in all these ancient texts. 8-minute video does that. Ye old reset weapon in the sky. This is with Martin Leakey. Martin Leakey has surprised me many times, man. He's a free thinker. He's a free thinker. And he has brought new data that I had never considered before that's connected to the Phoenix phenomenon. That kind of shocked me, especially his theory about the sun being a battery and that the red dust, red rain, and red mud is the shedding coming off the battery, and that it's like a purge every 138 years. It's a solar cycle where the sun just blows that red dust. It's pretty interesting theory. Reset cycle of knowledge, astonishing data set. This is all about the Phoenix. Phoenix phenomenon and Giza blackout drive. That's an ad. I'm sorry. That's an ad for a drive where I have over 100 Phoenix videos on there. Tartaria, the Phoenix connection. Yeah, it blew my mind when I did the Tartaria research. I had no idea until I delved in. And then I found an old book, guys, that told me about Tartaria in the exact year that it first appeared in the historical record. I show the book, I show you the page, I blow it up for you to see it. It's without a doubt on the 138-year periodicity. Tartaria appears in the year 1212 AD. The Phoenix song, Memories and Mechanics of a Vapor Canopy World. This video shows like 4 or 5 scientific books that are all about vapor canopy mechanics. 1902, Hidden Takeover and Future of the New York Stock Exchange. The Great American Midwest Destruction. That's my van right there. And that's a trip I went out west showing the topography and that the entire western United States was destroyed. And it's easy to see in the pictures. Oldest surviving texts tell a story of Phoenix resets. This is an old book from 1835 or 1877. I have 2 different videos that show 2 different charts, but this is a timeline. I have this book in my library where I'm showing the publication of all these ancient books. The periods between the publication dates absolutely show Phoenix resets. History is a looping construct. Proof of a system reset. Angel of Ancient America, the Moroni Phoenix Codex of Rome. Yeah. Book of Mormon has a Phoenix phenomenon episode perfectly described within it. The Archaix prophecy, reset, simulation theory, mud floods, and the Great Pyramid. Here's a newer video. It's almost 4 hours. Chronolithic dispensations, hidden chronology of the world through megalithic architecture. Last day, here's another new video. Last Days of the Sun, 1902. Epic confirmation of the Phoenix Thesis. That's this video. Oh, listen to me. Live, right there. That's this video. That is my Phoenix phenomenon playlist. Right there. That's it. 2 hours and 25 minutes. I think I did a pretty good job keeping all that abbreviated. Somebody asked me if the world is a globe. I'm a simulationist. So you can believe the world is a globe if you want, because the sky is a lie. And the phenomena that you see in the sky is of curvature that is entirely deceitful. But you can believe what you want to believe. In a computer simulated universe, you're going to have to start with a flat plane. Flat plane is necessary, and then you program curvature in there to make it all realistic. Yeah, but we live on the surface. No one lives in the sky. So whatever you're looking at up there it's irrelevant. It's all background programming. It's all to make this experience more believable. But yeah, that's what it's about, guys. It's this book blew my mind. Thank you, Dane Mahar. I've already thanked him and he acknowledged it. But thank you for bringing my attention to that book, because it's very rewarding. It is very validating, especially with the immense amount of people that have tried to critique. Well, nobody's tried to critique it. Not one single person has come out and done what I asked as a professional. And I've been asking people to do this for 4 years. Not one person has done it. All I've asked is, if you don't think the Phoenix phenomenon of 138-year periods is correct, then please write down a full list of what's wrong about it. Put your thesis together as to why it's wrong, and I will publish it on my channel. But you're going to give me fair play. I will publish whatever you write. I've been saying this on my channel for years. If you think I'm wrong about the Phoenix phenomenon, simply write down everything that you think is wrong about it. I will publish it for my whole channel to see it, and I'll give them a week or two to absorb that, and then I'm going to proceed to critically analyze every one of your arguments. So you better come heavy, because I know my material. But anyway, I've been doing this for years. Not one person. Don't get me wrong. Now there are people that have critical videos. Yeah, Gnostic Academy has been a critic of mine, and I haven't even engaged. Doesn't mean I won't engage in the future. I just don't feel like embarrassing the man. But he has a video called what is it called? He didn't attack the Archaix. He didn't attack the Phoenix phenomenon. He called his video Archaix phenomenon, and really has some really denigrating things to say about my community. And it seems like what all these other content creators do. Instead of attacking the integrity of my research with anything of substance, they cherry pick these little things and think they've made really profound points. And I can easily go around it and publish all kinds of things to embarrass them. But why? Almost every single criticism that I've taken from others, especially on YouTube, has always involved demeaning my community, as if you guys are a collection of dullards who are following some cultist. It always devolves to that. That's why I have zero tolerance. That's why you see the attitude in me that I have. I haven't been professionally attacked. Yeah, the attacks against me have all been very sophomoric. So they're beneath me. When I get professionally attacked, that's when you're going to see me unleash. That's why I've been wanting to debate Wes Huff. I've been wanting to debate Wes Huff just to show the public the difference between brainwash and intelligence. It's really easy. I would run circles around Wes Huff on all these factual things that cannot be denied in the historical record, showing the absolute falsity of Christianity. Every bit of it. That's why the man's running. That's why Graham Hancock is running. That's why Jimmy Corsetti has blocked me from all his platforms. Yeah, guys, there's no professionalism in the field anymore. Where are you at? Where are the professionals attacking me? I don't see them. I'm hoping for it to happen, because a man is always made by the greatness of his enemies. But if it's nothing but peons attacking, I would only cheapen my value by entertaining that, especially when they don't bring anything of substance. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. That's why I'm not going to allow any of this bullshit in my chat. That's why I really have a lot of respect for my moderators. Yeah. You don't understand something, ask questions. If you don't like the answers, do not get toxic, because we will remove you. Yeah, man. I'm not going to let the Christian right take that win from me. I don't give a damn about them using Wes Huff to take Billy Carson down. We know the truth. We know that Archaix whittled Billy Carson down for 2.5 years, to the point that his handlers had to do something. They had to do something. I backed him up into a corner. I'm not done. I got people on my list for Gaia. I got people on my list for Ancient Aliens. Yeah, I'm going to back people up in the corners. I'm going to continue the Archaix offensive to the point people are going to want to kill me. That's what I'm going to do, because I'm going to keep producing these facts, keep showing how ridiculous different things are, and I just don't care. It's too late to be polite. It's too late. Yeah. Where are you professionals out there analyzing this Phoenix data? Where are you at? Why are you all so quiet? Because I'm just waiting for one of you to raise up. I don't know what's going on. Why are you so quiet? But yeah, that's today's presentation. That book blew my mind. Man, that book blew my mind. Blew my mind, man. Let's see. I'm just looking at the chat generally. Yeah, Billy wasn't qualified for that conversation. I did a video defending Billy Carson because what he was trying to convey is real. Billy's not wrong. A lot of the Jesus material comes straight out of older writings. Billy is right. Wes Huff really got him on some technicalities, and Billy wasn't even qualified to see the trap. And you know what? I just don't care because I don't really give a damn about Billy. I don't. I used to try to think maybe Billy and I are going to have some common ground until a bunch of people started sending me the emails. Billy Carson mass mailed emails to a bunch of people about me, my criminal history, and all that. Billy Carson literally got me blacklisted. A whole bunch of people didn't want to do podcasts with me, didn't want to do anything because they're scared of Billy Carson. They're scared of Forbidden Knowledge News, not wanting any blowback from them. So, you know what? I don't even care. Because if you're associated to Billy Carson in any way, I don't believe that you can bring any value to my community anyway. Yeah, that's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So it's getting super cold tonight. I got plants I got to put into the. I got a small greenhouse. I got plants I got to bring in. I didn't realize it was gonna get that cold. It's gonna get into the 20s tonight. So I got some chores to do before the sun goes down. Maybe go get me something to eat. But man, I'm so glad to get this video put out. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm just rambling right now. I ain't got no business rambling. I've been on. If you're not on my Twitter feed, you have no idea the amount of material that I have been dumping. I have been all kinds of arguments, everything. It's just, yeah. I've triggered a lot of people behind my video on the 1800s, and I'm going to tell you now, so be it. You're going to get real triggered when I continue that series. Get real triggered because there's no mysteries in the 1800s. None. Dissecting all that BS. Yeah, my next video is going to show you the state of our technology in the 1800s and what we're capable of doing. It's crazy, man. It's just crazy the arguments people assume are valid. It's like, wow, man. If you just put that same argument and bring it into a different context, people realize, damn, I sound stupid. Damn, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it's crazy. You're being conditioned to think something is mysterious when it is not. It's just a lack of information that you don't possess all the facts. I'm not saying there's no general mysteries. There are, because that's what this whole series is about. When we're done with the 1800s, we're going to the 1700s. When we're done with the 1700s, we're going to the 1600s. We're going as far back as I am able to before I finally admit, okay, here's where we need to start looking real hard for something anomalous. All right, let's see. All right, guys. Got if you haven't checked out my new Shopify store, I got all kinds of things on there. The link is in the description box. Go check out the Archaix Shopify. Get you all the links are in the description box. You can check out the Archaix coffee. I'm about to go make some now. I got this on my Arizona trip. But we can go get some more coffee. That's all I drink now. Ephesian Night and Phoenix Blend. That's a subject for another. Jano Andre. We can talk about the 11 dimensions. Yeah, we can. I believe that 2178 leads to the 12th, but we can't get to it with our mathematics. We can't get to it with our arithmetic. But yeah, it's on the Ophis deal. That's what we found. We found all these things were happening in permutations to the 11th dimension. We can't see beyond that. Crazy. Hey, Wendy Flores, Debbie, Mr. C. Thank you guys for running a tight ship. I really appreciate that. Just checking out my chat. I think the next video is long overdue. We need to knock out some Q&As, maybe 2 of them, or just one long one. I don't know. The Vegas trip is all we've already got it. We've already got a deal set up with the casino. The Golden Nugget, the Vegas trip is on. It's already been posted. With somebody, I don't have the links. I'm so disorganized. My team is way more organized than I am. Would somebody please post the link to the I believe the Facebook page has been set up for that, but we're gonna put the sign up too on the website archaix.com. So yeah, I think April 12th. So it's going to be April. So I think we're flying in April 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. So I listen. I'm not trying to be an asshole, guys, but you have to understand I'm going to have a lot of security, and I have really good security detail, and some of them are real security. I'm not talking about just big old guys like Big John, who's an ex-con like I am. I'm talking about actual real security, some of you seen them too at my meetups, but we have special armbands, and you're going to have to wear them because I plan on having fun walking around the casino. They got lounges, restaurants, they got food courts, they got all kinds of things to enjoy. But if you're not wearing one of the official Archaix bands, then we're going to have to assume that you came to the Golden Nugget while Archaix team was here, but you didn't buy an Archaix ticket to enjoy the one. We have a full day of activity in a private room, or a series of rooms. And if you're flying in to, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to engage with you. You're going to have to wear that armband. And the reason is because people are flying in from Canada, Mexico, Europe, other states in the United States to enjoy time. And I have promised to spend a bunch of lounge time and floor time on the casino floor and in the bars with all kinds of errands that are coming in to enjoy that time. I want to have conversations with everyone. And I'm not going to have conversations with people who aren't wearing that band. So if you intend on flying in and joining, and you're going to see us, but I'm telling you, my security is not going to let you near me. It's not going to happen if you're not wearing the band, because it would be unfair to those who have paid for the ticket. It's only $276 to pay for the all-day ticket. But for the 2 days before the event and 1 day after the event, I will be available all through the casino to talk with people who have traveled to Vegas to have fun. Kick it. Doesn't have to be serious. Whatever you want to talk about and chat about, it's all good. But if you're not wearing the armband, then you didn't come for the event. You came to do whatever, to engage without participation. And that would be totally unfair to take up the time of other people who are trying to talk. So I'm just not trying to hear it. It says, if you're not wearing the armband because you're not attending the event, then I'm not going to dialogue with you. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, otherwise, we're going to have a blast. We are going to have a blast. Nanny Boo Boo, you stop giving my secrets away, girl. It's good stuff. So would somebody please put the link in the chat for the event, how to get the tickets? Vegas event, AM1, how you doing? Vegas event, AM1, why are you running, man? I've invited you to my channel multiple times, and you always got some excuse, man. So you need to come on out with it or something. I know you got your own channel. All right. What was I thinking? Man, I lost my train of thought. So yeah, on my website, the newer things to like Shopify site, if you go to archaix.com, and I'm going to tell you now, GoDaddy has published that Archaix.com is in the top 10% of the highest traffic websites in the entire GoDaddy universe. So it's if you go to Archaix.com, you'll see the gate for Archaix Academy. You'll see the gate for our Shopify site and all the playlists. Let's see. Yeah, we'll be doing a camping trip too. Glen Rose, Texas. That's going to be a blast. I haven't been there since I was a kid. Paluxy River Valley. Got them old giant three-toed footprints fossilized into the riverbed that people like to lay in, get their pictures taken in. Fossilized hammer. They got a barometric hyperbaric chamber where they replicate vapor canopy conditions at the Creation Museum there. It's awesome. I don't know. You know what? I would like Max to be there. Max Egan's a very interesting individual. Very, very interesting individual. I just showed a picture of what I thought Max had looked like after Anarchapulco on Twitter. I'm sorry, Lacey. Vegas is as close as the West Coast as I'm going to get to this year. Except when I go back to San Diego. I go to San Diego every single year. Not to do meetups, but I just drop in, go to the book tree. Oh, I got a new Zodiac video that's going to blow your minds. Oh, my God. What did they hide? What did they hide when they introduced this fake solar Zodiac with Libra and Gemini? And man, when they introduced that, the original Zodiac will blow your mind. I'm just waiting on the book because I already have a lot of the data, but my publisher just sent me a book that shows. I can't tell you everything about it, man. It's just amazing. Just amazing. Just can't do it. Can't give it away. All right. So like I said, I'm just rambling. I'm going to find this awesome outro. We will be real soon starting to put your ads on YouTube. Those of you who turned in your OPHIS predictions, you'll be getting those real soon. A whole bunch of you already got them, but we're going through the list. We're going through the list on those. There may be a big development with OPHIS because of something Big John and Cole and I since spent half a day running back testing. This was games that were already completed and the output was already known, and we have to do it again. We have to do it again, and we have to go hard because we have to verify what we found. Because if it remains true, it changes everything. It's amazing. So, all right, let's go. Let me find the right outro again. Oh man, I got way too many video clips on here. But hey, as always, guys, break free or die trying. And you know, I may get an attitude. I may get upset, short, or impatient. You may tick me off, but I always love you.